Hello today. Welcome to Real Estate Divas. I am Kristen Gerst with Capricorn Mortgage, here with the lovely J. Lee Thompson of Texel Real Estate, and today we are talking everything title, how to pick a title company with Teresa Myers from Mutual Title. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi.
Thanks for sharing your big brain with us today.
I don't know how big it is, but I'll share what I got.
Well, she was just telling us earlier, right before the show, about, okay, so before you opened your title company, and that's been a 2020 venture for you, right?
Yes.
But prior to that, it was...
I was a fee attorney. I had a fee office.
Gotcha.
And before that, I was just a real estate attorney and working, in title. And then opened my fee office, and then now the
title company. Mm-hmm. For everybody out there that doesn't understand what a fee attorney is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's basically a closing office. So you would work indirectly with a title company. But you would actually do all the title clearing and the closing and the real estate related documents that needed to be done. So it's kind of like it's a title company. It appears as a title company, but not really.
Gotcha.
Good. So that's, and basically you've been doing this for how many years? Because I know I've been working with you, oh my gosh, you were back when you were at Paradise. That was many, many moons ago.
Yeah. So I've been a real estate attorney since 2014.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so going on a number of years.
Yes. And then I went into title shortly after, maybe 2015 or 16. I think it was 2016 I went into title. My whole goal as becoming a real estate attorney when I went to law school was to eventually have my own title company.
And just a small plug for Teresa. She has recently helped me out on an enormously awful file. And so
Not that that's all she does.
No, she wants the easy
Please
stuff.
send me good files.
She does want the easy stuff. But, you helped me out so much with this file. It was thrown out of 3 title companies. 3 title companies wouldn't even close it.
It was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
Yes.
You're like, I'm here to tell you, it was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Sometimes people they don't have the time and not that I do, but maybe they don't have the experience with some of those trickier files like that, and you have to really dig deep, maybe do some, I like to call super stalking, do some research, find the people, because you've got to find, people to sign old, incorrect or erroneous deeds or whatever the problem is. You've got to really
and that's some real out-of-the-box thinking as well, in my experience. Like if you're going to a title company that is kind of a cookie-cutter retail company, then they only do this.
Right.
If it doesn't fit in this tiny little box, well, we don't do it.
And that's true. And I would prefer to have all the cookie-cutter, nice little deals with the little bow on top. It would be great, and I get those, and they're fine, and I love them. It's you make money, it's less work. A lot of times with the ones that are kind of a nightmare, you spend a lot of hours and you don't get a whole lot of return out of them. So I understand why some title companies might not want to mess with them,
Are you allowed to charge more fees on?
Oh yeah, I could definitely. If I have something I know is going to be a nightmare, and you'd say, hey, Teresa, I know it's going to be a nightmare. And I'll say, okay, well, I'll just charge more escrows.
Right.
The premium itself is set by TDI. You can't do anything about it. It is based on your sales price. And there's nothing that's going to change about that. But if I wanted to, if I knew something.
And TDI is the state?
Oh, sorry, Texas Department of Insurance. Yes, TDI is the Texas Department of Insurance. They are the ones that kind of control the title insurance world. Title insurance. What is title insurance?
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a policy. It's just like you would go and buy a policy for your home or your auto or your health. You're buying a policy for your home. Or if you're a lender, you're buying a policy for your loan.
Right.
It's a one-time fee, and it's the life of the loan. It's the life of the time that you own your home. And it's a one-time fee, but it gives you insurance. The insurance basically is going to protect you in case of a loss. And a loss would be somebody came up and said, hey, I'm an heir and I wasn't counted for, or this was fraud. This deed was signed by somebody that said they were my mother, but she wasn't. All kinds of things. So when you come to a title company, they're supposed to look at everything. They're supposed to say, hey, okay, does this look fishy? does this look like the same signature? You've got to kind of do your homework because you're trying to mitigate loss for you.
Right.
So you do all the things and you clear the title, and then you hand over this title policy and says, okay, something, heaven forbid, was missed.
Okay, so when you hear title policy, think insurance.
That's right.
And that would be insurance against anything that might have been missed.
Yes,
On
as
title
long as
itself.
it's something that actually incurs a loss. Okay. Now, say your title policy didn't mention that there was a 10-foot easement in the back, but of course you see there's a power line, so you're not allowed to build under it, right? You're not incurring a loss because you know you're not supposed to build under it. Now, if you had not known and built some, immaculate structure or some pool under a power line, I don't know why anybody would, well, then I suppose there could be, some recourse for loss if the city came and made you tear out your pool.
Sure.
But if there's no loss, then there's no harm, no foul either. A loss, I would say, would be more like for somebody committing fraud or a long lost heir that wasn't accounted for, just things like that, really.
Gotcha.
So once you get that loss, right? Because you have got to, I mean, as I know now for the first time, once you pay for something that you did have, I mean, because I had title insurance. Well, what's the next step? Because you do have to pay for that when you close, but now you've taken a loss, right? Because you have to pay off something.
Okay, so say it was taxes that weren't paid. You bought that property in 2018 or something and the taxes weren't paid. So you go to sell it in 2020 and you find out there's taxes to be paid and there's back taxes and interest and penalties, whatever, okay? So now you're at closing and you're selling the property and you've got to pay it. Well, then you just have to go to your title company and say, hey, I had to pay these taxes, but you said you paid them. You were supposed to pay them. They were due when I bought it, etc. So then they would say, okay, let me take a look at it. And, most title companies would probably just say, okay, I'll pay it and write you a check and be done with it, right? If they're going to argue or there's something, some other type of claim that maybe wasn't part of the insurance policy or something like that, then it would have to go through underwriting and you would probably, make a claim on your policy then. The first step, though, would be to call the title company. Say, hey, how can we get this fixed? And let them just kind of handle it. But if they can't or they won't, then you would call the number on your title policy and follow the directions. You would probably want to send something in writing, probably also send an email, and then follow up with a phone call.
I like to cover all my bases.
I do too.
And then I get reamed all the time about, do you delete any emails? No, they go in a file. They go in a file. Everything goes in a file.
Absolutely.
Until your email box is full all of a sudden. And I'm like,
exactly.
okay, so I've got to save all these important emails.
Yeah.
About how long does it take for a title policy to pay off a claim?
I mean, it probably depends.
I mean, assuming that the title company doesn't make good on what they should have.
So when you report something to your title underwriter and say that they're kind of slow or something to take care of the case, you could always call TDI, I suppose, Texas Department of Insurance, and make a claim there, and then it might light a fire. But most of the time, they're going to call you back pretty quick. I'd say in a couple weeks, and they're going to talk to you. They might get more information from you. They may have to kind of investigate it a little bit more.
Sure.
But they also have to make sure it's a valid claim. Not everything that somebody calls about is valid. Right. It's something not covered under the policy, or it wasn't anything that the title company should have known or anything, You just never know. Or if it's something where we're having to go back on a prior person for fraud or something like that, they might have to go to court. So they might pay your claim first and then go to court, or it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I did
things.
have a claim on me one time when I was a fee office, and my underwriter just paid it, and then I just paid back my underwriter. I mean, it was like 30 days, maybe 45 days, and it was over. And it was a fraud. A guy had already sold the house the day before.
Oh my goodness.
Out of another title company, and they came to my title company and sold the house.
There was a whole slew or a period of time where that was happening a lot. And that ended up being, I mean, I know it was on the news, or at least it was heightened in all of our
But you know,
perspectives.
it seems. I mean, that seems like a risk for title companies because how do you catch something like that?
It is a risk, and there's some little loopholes for you if the person had done it within a certain amount of time. There's nothing you could really do. But if they had already sold it and you could have found it in the records, well then, it's not really.
I'm talking about when they're doing it simultaneously.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean-
it depends. Did you do what you were supposed to do, or did you make a mistake? I mean, it's all different.
Right.
And in this case, we have these things that we call bring to dates, and basically we're checking the records right before we close. Within 30 days, your commitment only has 30 days of an effective date, right? So you want to close and record your documents within 30 days of the date on top of your commitment. And if you don't, then you're out of the date. And in this particular case, 1 day off for when we recorded our docs. So
Wow.
Wow.
So that's,
So that's
a
the
really
importance of recording docs as soon as possible.
Right. And
Yes.
that's a really good piece of advice.
Yeah.
Very good piece of advice to make sure and close within 30 days of that date on your title
Oh
commitment.
yeah, not even just
Yep.
close. You want to make sure you're closed several days before that date,
And
that
recorded.
and that there's time to record your documents. Say your documents are in some little county that you can't even record online. You're going to have to send your documents there. You're going to be in some line, and they're going to get to them when they get to them. You want to have some time.
Yep.
So, and every time I've ever heard about it, it's almost closing like 1 day apart.
Mm-hmm.
So can they be issued title commitment by two different title companies?
That's what I find strange is that, and I wasn't a title company then, right?
Right.
I was a fee office. I was getting title evidence somewhere else, but I found it strange that there wouldn't be some type of system to let all the title companies know what was going on.
Right.
And I don't have my own plant. I order my plant from a third party abstract. I order my title examination from a third party title plant, and I've got a few of them that I use.
Mm-hmm.
But you would think that they would all kind of talk to each other.
Right. And
Hey,
say, hey,
somebody's
we
got a
just
commitment.
gave a
Yeah.
title commitment on this
Right.
Yeah,
property.
like it would flag.
Right, but I don't know. I found it odd.
Title
Yeah.
is open at this other title
Right, and
company.
why? And let's get
Right.
it closed first over there. Let us know that it's been canceled and send us.
Proof of cancellation before we open it up.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you mentioned a second ago about like smaller, when you're talking about smaller counties and you got to go in person and that sort of thing, for people who are out there, because I know there's a lot of wholesalers and investors and stuff, whenever you're trying to find a title company or somebody you can work with and they're not in your parameter of where you usually work, or you don't have a realtor what's like one of the first things that you would suggest for people to kind of search who you want, like what title company you want to go with? Who do you want to close with?
Like what makes a title company better than another?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Like what
Yes.
are
And how do
some
you
of the
know?
things you want
How do you know that? I mean, because I was always going, okay, I'm cool if the buyer chooses their own title company. I'm not going to fight it, right? And I just thought because they're the ones ending up with a title policy, that maybe they want to be sure of who's closing that, and it's great. But I learned the hard way on this last sale a few months ago, and I'm like, and finally, like the fourth time around, I was like, I'm like, Teresa's closing it. Nobody
Yeah.
else is closing it. I don't care what you say.
Well, in my case, I learned from that one instance, and so other things have popped up, and I do a lot of research. If it looks funny, then I assume it is funny, and I keep researching until I figure out if it's good or not.
Yeah.
For example, a lady saying that her name is this, but for some reason the deed says her name's that, and she doesn't know why. And I was like, okay, that sounds funny.
That's weird.
So I look up the person whose name's on the deed. Oh, and she bought it from the seller on the deed, the quitclaim deed also. Well, when I look up the actual name that's on the deed, the buyer and the seller, it turns out the seller's now deceased, but the buyer on the deed is related to the seller, but this buyer says she never knew her.
Interesting.
So obviously they're not the same person.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not the same grantee. The grantee is the person who has purchased the property and is now the person owning it. So
So for you, yeah, you take that
Yeah.
extra step
I do,
and that extra mile.
because of things that have happened.
But
And
again,
you don't
for
know.
like the investors out there, like myself, I mean, I wouldn't know, if somebody was reliable and good and doing a great job or not.
Well, you've got to read the commitment yourself. You've got to learn what's on that commitment.
And you taught me how to read a title commitment
Yes.
many years ago. She
Yes.
did. And she's just like, you need to understand what you're
We've
looking
said
at.
that before whenever we were talking title and we were talking all the things that can go wrong. She said, everybody out there needs to know how to read a title
Right.
commitment.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I have.
And
I
what
have
is the most important one?
Schedule C. Well, Schedule B is important too. Schedule B tells you anything that is going to be subject to. You're going to take title, but you're not going to have this portion of it insured because it's an easement from the city. You can't. There are things that can't give you clean, clear, equitable title because also the city has an interest in that piece. So obviously, you're not being given clear title. You're giving title, except for there's an easement here. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yes.
So you want to see what easements are on there, especially if you're going to build on the property, and you want to make sure nothing's in the way. So you do want to make sure you read Schedule B. But the most important thing is Schedule C. And Schedule C says everything that's right now encumbering title as such that we cannot issue the policy until we clear it. I like to say Schedule C equals clear. So you have to clear everything on Schedule C.
Gotcha.
You want to be able to read it. You want to know what it's saying. A lot of it's just basic mumbo jumbo that you just put on there and then it's removed and you can tell and you're like, oh, that's nothing. Okay, here we go. Here it is. There's a big lien. There's a deed of trust. There's an abstracted judgment. There's a federal tax lien. Okay, this seller has some problems and we need to make sure that the title company's taking care of it. And so I have a client who sends me policies when he doesn't close with me. He's like, okay, I see this. Do you see anything different? And I'm like, no. Or, oh yeah, I would add this. And I would ask, are they doing this? And how do you know? And give you some type of evidence that this is done. And then it's clear. And then when he's done, he brings it back to me and he closes his sale through me. But he can't always choose the title company that he's purchasing from. So he just makes sure that he understands it and he tries to read it and then he throws it over to me and he gives me what he thinks and I agree or not,
Well, and right there is a perfect example that if you don't know something, like any of these investors that are out there, if you don't know the answer and you don't know how to read, you don't know, not that you don't know how to read. We're
You don't
going
know
to
how to
assume
understand
y'all
it,
know
yes.
it. Yeah, but that you don't know what it means. Try to get in touch with some of these experts like yourself
Right.
and build that relationship so that you can call on them and go, hey, can you take a look at this for me? Because I'm not used to reading it. This
Right.
is maybe my first time, maybe my second, but I need a second pair of eyes.
Right.
And an expert in that field, not my uncle.
Right. Well, and I'll be happy to, when it's the first time closing with me or something, I'd be happy to go through the Schedule C with you and kind of explain something to you. And then after that, you'll kind of have an idea and then you could read through them if you were somewhere else. I would ask that if you're having me do this work that you are going to bring the file to me
Right.
at some point.
Yes.
Right. I don't want to work
Yes.
for free. And if that becomes a problem, then I would just have to charge you for, each time I
Consulting.
review your, yes.
Yeah.
And my one guy, he emails me, and when I get time, I answer him back. Like, he's not
Yeah.
calling me, demanding my time right now. So, and I know he's always bringing me the file back. So I feel
mind it.
comfortable,
Yeah,
and
it's
I do
reciprocated.
it. He always tells
Yeah.
me to bill him, but I'm just like, no, we're good, because I already know he's going to bring it back to me.
Yeah.
So I have a relationship there, and it works. But that's definitely, you should find
That's
somebody
part of
that
it.
can.
Yeah. That's part of it because we've said time and time again, don't just ask somebody for their information and just be the one that's constantly asking.
It has to be a
give
reciprocal
me something.
relationship.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
else it doesn't work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quid pro quo.
Exactly.
So when we're, for all the investors out there looking, right, where's a great place to meet or to find like an investor-friendly title company that will be able to go that extra mile and
Word
do
of
the-
mouth.
Word of mouth.
I mean, how did you hear about me?
Well, do you remember?
I do, yeah.
It was actually really awesome. Really awesome.
It's kind
You
of a
came
different type of word of mouth. But
Right.
Yeah.
You came up to me in the middle of a real estate investor networking group, and okay, she's like, hey, yeah, I'm an attorney, title company. I do closings, and I was about ready to blow her off. I was,
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, cool, whatever, and I'm like,
Well, and for
I was so
whatever,
impressive.
for whatever
She
reason, title gets
No,
blown
she
off
was.
a lot, though. Title gets blown off a
It
lot.
does.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, what I have is it's a little unusual what I'm doing. And she goes, why do unusual? And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, this is what I'm doing. And she was the exact attorney that I was looking for. Do you remember this? It was because of the Germans. And I'm like, all I know is that there's these Germans closing note sales. And I'm like, I'm looking for this attorney.
I was like, oh yeah.
She came up out of the blue. She's just like, yeah, I'd love to get your business. And I'm like, I was giving her the brush off. And then
Why
all
they gotta
this.
be German?
Yeah, why?
No, she had found something on the public record. She was doing her own super stalking research, right? And she had
Trying to
found
find this
something,
one attorney.
and she was
this
trying. But
attorney.
my name was on there. I don't know why you couldn't have just Googled it, but
I don't either. I don't know either.
but then she went, "Oh, I've been looking for you." It's so funny. But
was.
the funniest part was that we had mutual friends, and then another friend is a sister of somebody. It was very.
Yeah, it was very
funny.
Yeah,
That's
no,
funny.
it was great. But that's how I found you. And it was at a real estate investor networking meetup, which I would say networking meetups and stuff like that, another great place. Because I
It
know
is a
you're
great
out.
place, but COVID.
Yep.
COVID
It's
has shot
Although in March, there's an event.
the event. I'm sure.
The event.
I've sponsored some of them.
Yeah.
I haven't shown up to them. It just seems like every time I turn around. Can't y'all do those on the weekend, Ryan?
It costs
I have a
more.
7-year-old child. It's
Yeah.
really hard to find a babysitter.
Yeah.
But
No,
but
it's really good. I mean, you're talking hundreds of people.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. But some of the other smaller ones that we used to do, like the one I met you at, they're not really doing those anymore.
No,
Yeah,
no,
not right now.
I've got
frequently.
mine on hold. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah, but
Networking is key, but like if you're out of state or something, then maybe if you have somebody, I mean, can people call you and you kind of know people that are down in San Antonio or?
I actually close things in San Antonio.
Okay.
I close things in the entire state of Texas.
Gotcha.
So if you want to call me, I can close it.
Which is great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm closing one in El Paso right now. Like,
What,
it doesn't
what
matter.
about out of state?
I could get licensed out of state, but I haven't.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have, I mean, like if I needed to close something in, say, Oklahoma, would you know who I could go to?
I might know somebody who knows.
See, there we go. So
But
again,
that's a form of networking right there.
Right there.
It's all about getting those key people that if you don't know somebody, if I don't know somebody, maybe you do.
all right.
There are some title companies, and they're actually licensed in other states.
Right.
Some of the bigger title companies, but they might also be the same title companies that don't want to deal with investors.
Exactly.
I'm sure they're not.
So-
Yeah.
That's the reason it's kind of hard. Like if you're just going, okay, this one company, they've got branches all over the United States, but they work in that. It's like dealing
So
with Bank of America or something.
And I'm just going to jump on here. In the past, how I have found my title companies in different states, because I have closed things in other states, I got on Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Facebook, and just went to like that real estate group for that specific city, and said, "Hi, investors. I'm actually from Texas. Who do I want to go to? Which title company, which fee attorney do I want to close this specific deal?" And then you get a bunch of
Recommendations.
referrals and recommendations
Yeah.
from these different ones. Now, then now you've got 3 to 5 on a short list.
That you can
are there
vet
any
from there.
any questions that you should ask?
Yes.
Yes.
What's their turnaround time? What's their to get a commitment? And do they clear title well? Do they deal with
Airship affidavits.
airship affidavit, investor stuff?
Right.
Do you get your policies?
Do you get your policies?
or is it like 2 years later? I don't know. I mean, those would be the questions I would want to ask if I was.
Those are all really good questions.
Yeah.
Those are
Take notes, people.
take notes, because I fell into this hole recently. So not closing with
being
Teresa.
a seasoned
Yeah.
investor.
Yeah.
So it's not just for newbies,
Yeah, yeah, and
It's
you
one
also,
thing if you have. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to
it's
cut you
okay.
off, but it's one thing like if you have somebody who you already can trust, you just assume everybody works that way,
Right.
and then you go
really
someplace
do.
else, and you're all of a sudden smacked in the face with, oh wait, not everybody does business like Teresa does business.
I
Exactly.
know. And
Yeah.
I get things, and my my guy might buy something somewhere else, right? And then he brings it to me because he's going to sell it or he's going to refinance it, you know, and then he's going to do something, you know, a wrap or a leasing it out or something. And I get the file and I'm just like, what? Who closed? Okay. I don't know who closed this. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it wasn't. But if you give me the title policy, maybe there's an indemnity and I could just rely on their policy and move forward. Because you can. I can get a title policy from a prior title company. And if my underwriter that I'm using has an indemnity with them, then they hold each other harmless, right? So I could get your policy on that file had you had a policy, and I could have used it to indemnify anything they messed up on it.
Right.
And it would go back to them and not on me when we closed it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But if you don't have a policy, then I can't do that, you know?
Yep.
Right.
And then when you ask for it, you don't get it. Da, da.
Right.
Or
When you ask the title policy that you paid for,
Yes.
and you ask for that title policy
Yes.
that you paid for,
Yes.
and you don't get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, 30 days, 90 days,
Year and a
that's
half.
reasonable.
Year and a half, not cool.
A year and a half, probably not reasonable.
Yeah, that's not cool.
No,
I'd
not
say.
really. Yeah. So, you know, so you could do the indemnity thing. Now, if it was a specific, like, break in the chain of title, maybe not so much. We would probably still have to clear some of that stuff, you know? But this is for liens that may or may not have been paid off or
Yeah.
something. You know, we would try to. We would also ask that they show us where it was on the HUD, and a lot of times, if they'll give it to us, we ask for their ledger so it proves money went in and out, and then we rely on their title policy.
Right, because you did, I mean, during this whole conversation, you were like, okay, just relax on all of this because stuff happens. You know, and checks get lost, especially at city municipalities.
They do. They'll sit on them, or, you know, or COVID, they're slow, you know, or whatever. And
Yep.
and the honest truth is, people are busy. Escrow officers are busy, and they're trying to clear your title, and they're spending a lot of time talking to all the cities and getting payoffs and doing a lot of things. And then you, buyer or seller or both, are calling every 5 minutes. And then, you know, oops, something got, you know, turned around, forgot to
Yep.
follow up, and oh, it's a mistake. No big deal.
Right.
We'll write you a check and you'll be done. You know, mistakes happen. Doesn't mean that it wasn't a mistake in
Yep.
your case. In your case, you know, it could have been done properly, or a check got lost, or a mistake happened. I don't know. But it was like 10 mistakes. So I'm just like,
It's like
You're
10
like,
things.
there's a lot
But,
going
I'm
on
like,
here.
I really would like the policy,
Yeah,
the HUD, you know.
all of the above.
Right.
Well, whenever you have, when you come across one that has like multiple liens against it, and especially when we're talking about federal, IRS, all of that stuff, I know there are several agents like Melody, who's a short sale specialist.
Yeah.
She's on top of, she does all those all the paperwork to send to, you know, all those entities and stays on top of them, trying to get them to sign their paperwork, get it released, blah, blah, blah. But she works with a title company that knows to expect that from her, right? If you're just somebody who has no idea how to do that, or that what that process looks like, I know you said that you do that sort of
Yes.
thing, but
Yes.
not every title company knows what to do with that.
Right.
It seems like.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I just know
What you
me,
do.
what-
How,
Yeah.
how soon should you cut bait and take it to another title company?
Well, you know that.
And do you just have an honest conversation
That
with that title company?
Yeah.
And go, are y'all going to handle this? Because I really believed, I did, you know, with this last round that, okay, this one, I don't think they're doing anything on it. And, you know, two were up front and they just said, hey, we're not going to do anything. We're going to close it. The other one, it was probably 6 or 8 weeks. You know, when I realized, I'm like, oh my goodness, they're actually not going to do anything, but they're just going to keep it running.
Well, okay. Were they communicative with you? Like, were they giving you updates or telling you anything?
Not really.
Nothing?
A little bit. I mean, here or there, and, you know, oh, right, we're still working on title.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, I haven't seen a commitment.
And it, you know, it could be they still are working on titles. Some things take a long time. You know, I was telling you about the one that took 3 months. You know, it just depends on how hairy it is.
It is.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
It could take time, but as long as your, you know, your escrow officer is telling you, hey, I've submitted everything, and I'm just waiting on the IRS. I'm waiting on, waiting on the government is about like you expect when you go to the DMV. It's not a fast process.
Exactly.
So you got to give them a little slack. But if they're not communicating that to you,
Right.
then maybe
No,
serious conversation with them.
Right,
Send
and
an
they
email.
ended up sitting on it. And again, it wasn't my choice because, I was letting the wholesale buyer, choose, and I'm like, it's cool.
And the wholesale buyer, to be honest with you, Kristen, could have been looking for another buyer, so they were just sitting on it because they were just doing that
Correct.
thing that they do,
Doing that thing they do. Yeah.
You don't know. I mean,
But it sounds like to me, the key here is to kind of stay in touch with your title company. Don't just put it with them and just assume, but also kind of have that conversation prior to of, look, this is going to be a little bit hairy.
right.
Do y'all even handle this sort of thing?
Exactly.
What are you going to expect from me? Because that's one of those that, coming from the realtor side of things, what are your expectations of what I need to do on the back end? Do I need to submit these forms? Is that what you're wanting from me? Is this something that your office will do?
We will
All
do
of
it.
that.
All we would want from you is, that the seller's cooperative.
Yep.
They'll sign the documents the IRS requires or give us whatever items we need. You just
Exactly.
make sure a lot of times the seller's not very cooperative either, and that's
There is that.
It's always a problem.
That's a lot of times.
And then your investor buyers like, oh, the seller says you've never called. And I'm like, well, actually, my phone log says I have, my email says I have, and I even received something from them, so I'm pretty sure they're not telling
Mail
you the
them
truth.
something.
So sometimes the seller's just not all that cooperative.
Yeah.
Maybe they're still hunting for another bid. Who knows?
Yeah.
But sometimes they're not helping you out. So I would hope that the person that's bringing the file would help me bring the seller out of the shell or whatever. And if the seller doesn't have an email, run it to their house or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to snail mail it to them, and it's going to come back.
Yeah.
Like
I've set up emails for my sellers before because they're kind of elderly or whatever.
that's
and
nice.
I'm like, look, I can do this in 2 minutes. Here, everything's going to come there. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what the password is, but I'm going to keep the password in case you then forget how to log in so I can get in there and make sure that we've got those documents,
That's awesome. No,
but that's, knowing who you're dealing with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in our situation, when we get a file, I have I call it front desk, but at order entry, that's where they'll do the contract order entry. I have them call the seller and at the same time email the seller if we have one on file. But then we call them because they might not ever check their email depending on the demographics.
Yeah.
If they're 90, they don't care about their email. So you're like, hey, I know you have an email, but I just want you to know I sent you something to it. And I need you to sign it, send it back, And they usually respond that way, but sometimes they don't have an email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
and
happens a
I'm
lot.
not running over there to set up an email.
No.
I've got to clear the title. So
Yeah,
yes, I would
exactly.
ask, hey, can you run
Anyway,
over there and
yeah.
give them this document? And that's pretty much where it would end. But I have clients who get the file, they clear the taxes, they do everything before they even put it on my desk.
Which is great.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I hired for Capricorn, I hired somebody to facilitate closing. So as soon as we're ready to go to closing, we've got buyer, seller, everything set up, then it goes to her and she just sits there and goes, all right, what do you need? What do you need from me?
You were really excited about it.
Oh, totally excited.
Is it working so far? It's doing good?
Yeah, and then she's going to do the back end stuff too to make sure that we have complete files with title policies. And do we need to chase down people to get release of liens signed or anything like that? She's handling that.
Oh, that's
Nice.
awesome. That's good.
It's very good.
Yeah. for
So,
sure.
Well, and if anybody who is out there watching, if y'all have any questions, like something right now, then just go ahead and throw it in the comments and we'll try to get back to you. Did you say hi to who was watching
Suhail
earlier?
Badridden.
Yeah, yeah.
Love Suhail. It's great.
Pam says hi.
Hey,
Pam.
Pam.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you sponsoring the March 23rd event?
I don't know. What day is it? I'd like to sponsor when I go to.
Yeah. It's going to be during the week. It's
It's
going to be
a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Is it a Tuesday? Is it
Yeah.
Monday?
It's Tuesday, I think.
Is it a Tuesday? Yeah.
You're like, ah.
Let me see.
Well,
Scarlet.
nobody likes doing real estate stuff during the week.
Scarlet.
You mean
during
during
the
the weekend?
weekend.
I agree. That irritates
You know,
me.
I probably can't. Scarlett is done with basketball March something, so she won't be. I have practice on, I don't know who thought this up, but I have practice on Tuesday nights. Sometimes it's Wednesday. I never know until the Sunday before. And then Friday nights and games on Saturday nights. Somebody just basically wanted me to have nothing to do every Friday and Saturday night.
That
For
is
the whole
some real
entire-
business.
For the whole entire basketball season. Go Raiders.
That,
Good for you, kiddo.
Yeah, she's 7.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
when you're a parent, isn't your life over anyway?
for a little while.
I always thought my Saturday afternoon was over, but I didn't know
Yeah.
my Friday night and my Saturday nights were going to be over. But I
Your
guess
Saturday
I have,
and Sunday afternoons
Yeah.
are over now
During
too.
season,
That's
yeah.
I mean,
Birthday
you
parties.
have your actual kids, and then you have your clients who probably act like kids.
right. So how do I juggle all these kids?
You need more in life.
You're like sleepover.
When my daughter was younger, I actually stole. Well, she was 2. I stole her her 2-year-old. Was she 2 or 3? It was her Spanish teacher to come work for me.
Oh.
And I was like, if she can babysit all these little kids, she can babysit my kids. You know what I mean? Like my clients, right?
Yeah.
And she spoke Spanish, so obviously
Nice.
I needed another
a
Spanish-
bilingual.
Hey.
Yeah.
So, and she's worked out. Adriana.
I
Yeah.
know who
Great.
she is.
Yeah.
I'm like, are we talking about Adriana? Because
Yeah.
I love Adriana.
Yeah, she's great.
Sounds
yeah.
like it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just laughing.
Just
'cause
poach them
the
from
children-
who needs an education? We're just going to poach all the teachers.
Well, it was like preschool. I mean, it was daycare.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question. What is something that you wish, like a new client or a new investor, like knew about the title process before coming to you? Like, and I guess I should have formed this question before I asked it, but whatever. You know, like if there was a boot camp for real estate investors, what is like the top thing you wish they would know about title?
And right now, I'm going to apologize to Teresa because I behave badly sometimes. Because apparently, she just can't pull a title commitment out same day. Apparently, that doesn't happen.
Well, you know, if I had nothing else to do or no other clients or 10 employees to handle and
Yeah.
a 7-year-old, sure, you know, and I didn't spend all my Friday night and Saturday nights doing basketball, then yeah, I could probably pull it out the same day. But,
Yeah.
you know, I have a
But
job
yeah,
too.
so don't expect that, right?
No, yes. Please
What-
don't expect that.
I'm just trying to think of other bad things that I've done.
Unless you wanted me to charge you really high attorney fees.
Yeah, right?
But
So besides that one,
I'm surprised you haven't charged me more fees.
oh, it's coming.
The last time
let me
I
call
just wrote a
Keela. She
long
gave me the
apology.
okay, let's go.
Wrote this long apology.
No, I wish that they knew. Okay, before bringing the contract or after they bring the contract? Can I say both?
Do both.
Both.
Yeah,
Okay.
we need
Okay.
they need some tips.
Before bringing the contract, kind of get an idea what a contract means. Read it. Try to understand it. If you can't, give somebody a call and make sure you understand what you're checking, because you have to write it a certain way or use the Trek standard and check it a certain way so that if you're paying all closing costs, we need to know that. Don't expect that I was going to read your mind. I'm going to go by the contract. And if the contract's wrong, then
That's on you.
you've got to get an amendment. And
Yeah.
I need the amendment. Don't give me your word. I don't want you to tell me that the buyer's okay paying closing costs when you have this written here or something. I want an amendment and I want them to sign it.
And
Those
you
kinda-
need that.
I have
It's
to have
part of
that.
the
They
contract.
think that I'm just being picky, but
Yeah.
it is super important. You
Yeah.
know, if you want to understand it more, great. You know, you can talk to me. I can tell you or somebody else. Make sure you understand when you're checking off the survey portion. You can check it off a certain way where you are paying a survey and you didn't mean to. You know, there's just little certain things that you've got to be aware of.
And I know coming from like not as much with the investors, I mean, unless they're brand new, but I know on the realtor side of things, there are a lot of realtors that don't read it and they just check it and they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
They don't know what they are now committing their client
Exactly.
to doing.
And they're responsible for their client, and they didn't
Yeah.
even tell their client, and their client has no idea that they're now responsible for a survey or for this, or that they gave a $2,000 credit. They don't even know.
Yep.
And then they're upset with me, and I'm like, I didn't write your contract. So
Yeah.
that's something I would like for everybody to know. what I would like for everybody to know after the file gets there is that we're working on your file. Calling every 5 minutes doesn't make me work on your file faster. In fact, you've now
Slowed it.
You've caused me to break whatever conversation I was having with the person I was trying to get to clear the title for you, or I've lost concentration and I get to start over. But just know that we're doing it, and if you want, send an email once a day and let us give you an update. Cool. Yep. You know, but no, you don't have to call us. We don't have to have an hour-long weekly meeting about your file.
Per Kila, right before Christmas, I had 3 sellers that were all 3 simultaneously calling not only you, but calling me 10, 12 times a day.
That's
and
ridiculous.
There were times where I'm on the other, one guy would call like until I picked up the phone, like the call, hang up, call, hang up, call, hang up.
And I won't pick up the phone for people like that.
That irritates
if you do that to me,
the crud out of me.
I won't answer your call.
That irritates the crud out of me.
And if you ask me for an update, don't expect that I'm just standing there at the email ready to email you back in 1 minute either. I mean,
I'll get you an update.
I'll get you an update. It might be tomorrow. I'm actually not closing your file. Actually, I just own the place. I don't even know the answers. I've got to go call the escrow officer working on your file to figure it out. You know.
Yeah.
But the impatience. You know, if you're bringing me a really hairy file and you know I've got all this stuff to deal with, it's not closing tomorrow. Just understand that, you know?
Yeah.
Now, if you brought me one of those nice things wrapped up with a bow on top.
Yeah, where you did all the legwork beforehand and you just
or there's nothing
just,
wrong with title. It's beautiful.
And
all I had to do was order a payoff and it got it a week later. We're good to go. Let's close it, right?
I mean, maybe one time I've seen like something where the Schedule C came back and I'm like, it's completely clean.
I basically like have a little mini party in my head every time I see one that's clear. I'm so excited. I'm like, dance party. It's nice, but
I think there's something. I just thought of this, and I've never heard anybody say this, but you could almost tell investors, hey, if you're buying a distressed house from a distressed seller, just assume the title work is also going to be distressed.
And they know that. They know that.
Yeah.
They know that.
But it's like their way of staying on top of things. We're all about staying on top of things, but know who you're working with and know they're doing their best.
My favorite thing.
Yeah.
Which is really not my favorite thing at all.
Yeah.
And it may or may not be something Kristen's done before, but when you
sarcasm noted. Yeah.
When we clear the title, that does not mean we have you scheduled for today. We might have already had a full day of closing scheduled.
Yeah.
So, just saying.
That's not me, thank God. For once.
I don't know. I said may or maybe not. I don't close your file, thank goodness, so I can't answer this question. I was just making sure you didn't feel bad.
That's
if
funny.
It was you.
That's funny. Well, I think that's a lot of good information there. And a lot of people don't realize, they don't realize that bugging, I don't even like bugging the lender, but I do it more than I will the title company because I assume the title company is waiting for a lot of stuff coming from a lender.
A lot of times they are.
And
then they like to say that they're waiting on the title company.
And if the lender's not on top of things, then, you're just at a standstill. So really and truly, more often than not, I will bug a lender more than I'll ever contact the title company.
Now, I'm not saying don't contact your escrow officer.
Yeah.
And they should be in contact with you.
Right.
You have to have an open line of communication.
Yeah.
But maybe, calling every 5 minutes isn't that best way to do it. Maybe once a day call, or even better, send an email. So as soon as that person has finished that whole day of trying to make your file happen, they can answer that email and give you an update.
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts, but that's a perfect world. I know it. I'm sure.
You're like that, but who am I? Besides, an attorney and own my own title. That's just my thoughts.
That's my thoughts. But I really like my girls. I think they're all very communicative, and they stay on top of it. They're all really good at it, and I've got a really good group. And I know that sometimes what I have them do now, because they get really stressed out about people getting stressed out on them, I'm like, just put an email that says you're in closings today, so that they know that you really are in closings today and you're not sitting by your phone, so you won't be answering it.
Yep.
So I think they all kind of do that now, and it's
That helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it eases a person's mind if they think, oh, she's not answering me.
There must be a problem.
There was
Yeah.
something's
Yeah.
wrong. Something's
Yeah.
wrong. No,
Yeah.
just in the closing, I will get back to you, and it eases that person's mind who's emailing you. Now they know. Okay, cool. She'll get back to
Well,
me.
and unlike the realtors and some of the investors who don't have to be there at the closings,
Right.
y'all really do. I mean,
Yeah.
all of your escrow, you can't do it without somebody there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not that electronic yet.
Awesome. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you to be their new title company, how do they do that?
Well, they can call the office, and they will.
At what phone number? And what's the name of your office?
It's Mutual Title LLC. The main line is 214-712-8151. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My email is Myers, that's TMYERS, at mutitle.com.
Just do this.
Oh, it's down
Or
there?
you can point
Oh,
down there.
Oh.
See?
there you go.
So
Hey.
fancy.
Nice, Ryan. I appreciate it. I was about to start spelling Mary University. But yeah, just give me a call. I would love to help you. And, if you need some assistance in understanding what the contract says and all that good stuff too, if I can make that better for you, then it makes it better for me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Very good.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing all your big brain expertise. I'm like,
Well, thank
woohoo!
I know.
Teresa made it.
We finally didn't have to do
Yeah.
this disclaimer, but none of us are attorneys.
I know. Usually,
purely for
it's
opinion
usually
only.
Ryan that pipes in. He was like, right now would be a good time to let everybody know that
You
are
two,
not.
you two are not. This is entertainment only. This is not.
I love it. I love it.
Well, I'm J. Lee Thompson with Texel Real Estate. Any of your buying, selling needs, reach out to me. And then also, I'm looking for some storage facilities in the Mid-Cities, Arlington area. If anybody's got something like that or got a lead on that, hit me up. Facebook or email. Yeah, I'm all over there. Or drop a comment here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm Kristen Gerst with Capricorn Mortgage. I am looking to buy mortgage notes. Yes, I'll buy them performing, non-performing. Send me what you got.
I'll be closing them.
And please, if you enjoyed this today, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Real Estate Divas.
Yeah, we're trying to grow that channel, so please help us out.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Y'all have a great weekend.